She had before when I sent them to her.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about could Phil sound better now. So.
Oh,
Were you
according to what I heard.
were you sick or
No.
after Mexican salad? But I guess sweaty about it. Years ago, buddy. And he was a privilege judge. I guess he was hitting me his 7th year.
It's
No, goes. I don't know who's talking. Yeah, but that's over in Basking Ridge, not here.
So, so it's this room, but there's like a 30-second delay.
Is there any way to turn off the
Yes,
speakers?
turn the volume off of the speaker.
well, that there wasn't one. Otherwise, I would figure that out.
Yeah, because that's annoying.
All right, Jeff, you're up, slugger.
You're up,
Let's
Jeff.
get this figured out.
He's in the wrong seat, should we tell him?
You're pretty sensitive.
I'm guessing it's more like about a 2-minute delay.
So look for a German now.
Little room. Get that thing back.
Yeah, but can you mute the speakers on Zoom? Okay.
This room needs an exorcism.
You know what, Denise, there's a,
Okay.
yeah, but hang on. There's an icon right to the left of the date and time. Immediately to the left, it looks like a speaker. Yeah. No, at the bottom. That one. Click mute.
That might mute the mics.
No, that should mute the speakers. Yeah, I don't hear you coming out of the speakers now.
Wait, but he was doing it online.
No, we don't allow public to participate via Zoom.
This is, that's just muting the speakers for the PC. It's not muting the recording. It shouldn't be for the recording. Because the audio is still lit up and it goes green when I talk. So it's picking up. All right, that's what we want.
Good to go.
Cool.
Well done, Mr. Chairman. Jeff, you're fired. David, you're hired.
Extra. Okay. Board of Adjustment meetings are held in person at the meeting hall on the second floor of Bernardsville Municipal Building at 166 Pine Brook Road. Members of the public wishing to offer comments or ask questions will be required to attend meetings in person. The agenda for each meeting will be posted on the Borough website, bernardsville.gov, at the Borough Hall. The planning department public bulletin boards at least 48 hours prior to meetings. Notice of the 2026 meeting dates has been published in the Bernardsville News, sent to the Courier News, posted on the Borough website, and filed municipal clerk hall on January 22nd, 2026. It's the intention of the board not to convene any matter past 11 p.m. at any regular or special meeting of the board unless a motion is passed by the members then present to extend to a later specified cutoff time, and same shall be announced at the opening of each meeting. In addition, the board does not intend to begin a new hearing after 10 p.m. nor begin testimony of a new witness after 10:30 p.m. Members of the public may participate in meetings at certain designated times as announced by the board chair. Members of the public will be permitted to address applicants and their experts, ask questions, and or make comments as appropriate once invited to do so. Any hearing conducted by the board is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision. Decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lorso?
Here.
Mr. Greenbaum?
Here.
Ms. Kramer is absent. Mr. McDowell?
Here.
Mr. Malillo?
Here.
Mr. Salyer?
Here.
And Mr. Slocum is absent. You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Couple of comments before we start getting into things. Obviously, new mics, new system. The mics are very sensitive. I've been cautioned. So no sidebar conversations. They will get picked up. People in the audience may not be able to hear it, but everybody listens. This evening, we need to worry about the annual report. So the hearing for the applicant needs to end at 10:30, just so attorneys are aware. All right, meeting minutes we do not have, correct? Okay, so we go on to, and we have no correspondence, so we go on to resolutions. For application number 25-11, Gregory Tussar, whereas an application for dimensional variance approval has been filed by Gregory Tussar, hereinafter designated the applicant to the Borough of Bernardsville Zoning Board of Adjustment, hereinafter designated the board for property located at 40 Turnbull Lane, Bernardsville, New Jersey, and more specifically known as Block 4, Lot 1 on the tax map of the Borough of Bernardsville, hereinafter designated the borough, Somerset County, New Jersey, with said use being a permitted use in the R110 residential zone district. And whereas a public hearing was held and whereas the applicant filed an affidavit and approved the publication and notice of the hearing was given as required by NJSA 40:5.D-12, and whereas a complete application has been filed, the fees required by ordinance have been paid, and otherwise appears the jurisdiction powers of the board have been properly invoked and exercised, and now therefore be it resolved, the Zoning Board of Adjustment, Borough of Bernardsville, County, Somerset, State of New Jersey, on the 20th day of July, 2026, made the following findings and conclusions with regard to the application. Findings of facts. 1, the applicant provided adequate notice of the application and the hearing in accordance with statute. 2, the applicant represented himself with regard to this application. 3, at the June 1st, 2026 hearing, the board determined that the application be deemed complete in order to move forward on the merits. 4, based upon a review of the application and attachments, survey, variance plan, photographs, letter reports, and/or memoranda from the board and borough consultants and from the testimony and evidence presented at the hearing, it would appear that the applicant is seeking dimensional variance relief in order to reconstruct and expand a portion of the existing single-family residential dwelling and also relocate and expand the swimming pool and patio areas. 5, as previously stated, the subject property is located in the R110 residential zone district and contains approximately 411,226 square feet, or approximately 9.44 acres. The property is presently developed with a 2-story residential dwelling, a 2.5-story garage/barn, a tennis court, a swimming pool, a well house, a gazebo, and other associated site improvements. A brief zoning history of the property is as follows. A, the subject property is part of a lot line adjustment approved by the planning board in application number 646. This approval was in June of 2015, where an equal land area was transferred between lot 1 and lot 3 in block 4. B, the applicant also made application to the zoning board under application number 23-06 in 2023, where approval was granted to demolish a barn stable structure and reconstruct the building in the same location in order to accommodate a 4-bay garage. Feet of impervious coverage, where a maximum of 27,416 square feet was permitted. The zoning board noted at that time the property contained 48,450 square feet of impervious coverage, so the impervious coverage was being reduced. 6, the subject property fronts on Turnbull Lane and Dryden Road, and the property is developed with a single-family residential structure in addition to other improvements previously stated in the body of this resolution. The applicant now proposes to renovate the existing single-family residential structure by constructing an addition with expanded porch and deck. The applicant also seeks to remove the existing swimming pool and construct a new pool and associated patio in closer proximity to the rear of the principal building, while also reconfiguring a paved driveway and walkway. The applicant will also remove the existing tennis court. 7, the applicant requires dimensional variance relief pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-70C for the following. A, maximum permitted impervious coverage where 27,416 square feet is permitted in the zone, where 41,235 square feet was approved on the final plans in the 2023 application.
I have both. Steve said, Paul Fox said 2024, Steve Williams is 2023. No, wait a minute.
23 was the other application.
Okay, so we'll do 24. Or,
It was a 2023 application when we approved it.
Steve said change.
The first application.
The first application was in 23.
Yeah, so Steve Williams said 2023, Paul Fox is 2024.
And where 31,938 square feet is now proposed under the current application. But the 41,000, as you stated in your summary, 41,390 is the application in 23.
Okay.
That's
what
page
we'll
2.
do. Right.
So it's got to be,
He's wrong, yeah.
yeah.
Fox.
So that's 23. B, disturbance of steep slopes. In the 15 to 25% steep slope category, a maximum slope disturbance shall not exceed the greater of 20% of the slope category area or 1,000 square feet where slope disturbance of 5,438 square feet is proposed. C, disturbance of steep slopes in the 25 and over steep slope category, a maximum slope disturbance shall not exceed 500 square feet and where a slope disturbance of 943 square feet is proposed. D, lot area where 435,600 square feet is required and where 411,226 square feet exists. E, front yard setback to the principal dwelling where a setback of 125 feet is required and where a setback of 47.2 feet exists. Lot conformity where the existing lot is non-conforming with regard to lot's shape, where a lot circle with a diameter of 475 feet is required to fit within the lot, and where the maximum lot shaped circle that can fit within the subject property is 376.9 feet. 8, Gregory Tussar, the applicant and owner of the subject property, testified on behalf of the application. Mr. Tussar stated that he is a 25-year resident of Bernardsville, and he proceeded to explain to the board the proposed single-family house renovations and other changes to the subject property. His comments were consistent with the facts previously set forth in this resolution. Mr. Tussar also stated that it is his intention to renovate the personal structure to how it looked at the turn of the last century. 9, James Madsen, a licensed engineer, testified on behalf of the application. Mr. Madsen indicated that he and his firm prepared the variance plan for the subject property and proceeded to describe the renovations that were being proposed for both the house and the site as well. The witness noted that the maximum permitted lot coverage continues to be reduced, although still exceeding what is permitted in the zone. Reviewing drawings of the proposed renovations to the main structure, the witness indicated that his goal was to convert the exterior of the house to how it looked at the turn of the last century. The witness also indicated that the existing foundation will be utilized after determining that it is structurally sound. Mr. Madsen also stated that both he and Mr. Tussar reviewed the reports of the board consultants and are in agreement with the comments set forth therein. 10, William Peel, a land use planner and environmental engineer, testified on behalf of the application. The witness discussed the variance relief that the applicant was requesting, specifically lot coverage and steep slopes. Mr. Peel noted that the applicant will be introducing significant landscaping to the subject property in order to minimize steep slope issues. And the witness also noted that lot coverage, although still excessive in this zone, has again been significantly reduced in an attempt to bring it more into conformity. The witness indicated that no DEP approval is required for this application, and further relocating the swimming pool and patios closer to the main house is beneficial in a practical sense, and will result in moving the swimming pool and patios further away from any wetlands. In discussing the variance relief being requested, Mr. Peel stated that several subparagraphs under NJSA 40:55D-2, specifically subparagraphs C, E, I, and J, were satisfied, and he offered his opinion that the requested relief was consistent with the general welfare requirements of the statute. Because of the size of the property and the fact that it has always been in single-family residential use, the witness observed that no substantial negative impacts that would result by granting of the relief being sought. The modernization of the main dwelling and the relocation and removal of various amenities on the property will result in better efficiency, with the positive aspects of approving this application far outweighing any negative impacts. 11, no members of the public commented either in favor of or in opposition to the application. Conclusions of law. Whereas pursuant to the municipal land use law, specifically NJSA 40:55D-70C 1 and 2, the board may grant relief from the strict application of any zoning regulation where, because of the conditions specifically affecting a piece of property as set forth in the statute, the strict application of such regulation would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties to or exceptional and undue hardship upon the developer of such property, or where the purposes of the municipal land use law as set forth in NJSA 40:55D-2 et sec would be advanced by a deviation from the zoning ordinance requirements, and the benefits of such deviation would substantially outweigh any detriment. Based upon the testimony and evidence presented, the board finds that the applicant has met the requirements of the granting of variance relief as set forth during the hearing of this application. The relief requested by the applicant appears appropriate and reasonable given the nature and size of the residential lots in this zone. The board is of the view that the submitted plans are proper and have resulted in an attractive project with the exterior of the main dwelling being returned to the architectural style at the turn of the last century. The applicant seeks approval to add attractive elements to the subject property, relocate the pool and patio area closer to the main dwelling, and continue to reduce the amount of impervious coverage on the site, which will enhance the subject property and the area. Whereas in order to grant dimensional variance relief, NJSA 40:55D-70 requires that no variance or other relief may be granted without a showing of that such variance or other relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the master plan and the zoning ordinances. In this regard, the board is of the opinion that the applicant has met this burden for the reasons set forth in this resolution, as testified to during the hearings and as commented upon by the board. Specifically, the construction and renovations that will take place could be considered normal and customary improvements to a single-family residence in this neighborhood. The dimensional deficiencies that the applicant is seeking relief with regard to steep slopes and impervious coverage will be mitigated by the significant plantings proposed by the applicant. Further, the board notes that the impervious coverage continues to be mitigated by further reduction. Although the applicant still exceeds the impervious coverage requirements in the zone, the amount of the deficiency continues to be reduced, which is a positive aspect. In essence, the modifications to the principal dwelling and the site itself are attractive, unique, and appear sensitive to the character of the neighborhood and its history. Now, therefore, be it resolved, having reviewed the application and considering the impacts of the proposal on the borough and its residents, and having determined whether the proposal is in furtherance of municipal land use law and JSA 40:55D-2 et sec, and the laws of the borough, and whether the proposal is conducive to the early development of the site and the general area in which it's located, the board concludes that good cause has been shown to grant the dimensional variance relief requested by the applicant. Be it further resolved by the zoning board of adjustment of the Borough of Bernardsville, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, on the 20th day of July, upon the appropriate motion made and seconded, that the application of Gregory Tussar is hereby granted subject to the following terms and conditions. 1, the applicant shall be bound by the testimony and plans submitted with this application. However, in the event the plans need to be revised pursuant to the recommendations and comments by the board and the board consultants, same shall be properly completed and submitted to the board. 2, the requested dimensional variances as set forth in the body of this resolution are granted for the reasons set forth herein. 3, except where specifically modified by this resolution, the applicant shall be bound by the recommendations contained in all the letter reports and memorandum of the board consultants and borough advisory committees. 4, prior to the issuance of any permits, the zoning officer and board engineer shall review and approve all plans submitted by the applicant. 5, there shall be no significant changes to the plans unless approved by the board. 6, the applicant shall pay in a timely manner all outstanding and future fees and escrow charges, and shall post all performance and maintenance guarantees in connection with the review of this application prior and subsequent to the approval of this application. 7, upon completion of the improvements and prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, an as-built survey and an as-built calculation of the lot coverage shall be submitted to demonstrate compliance with board approval. 8, the applicant shall submit proof of payment of all real estate taxes for property. 9, the applicant shall be responsible for the obtaining of any other approvals or permits from other governmental agencies that may be required by law. And the applicant shall comply with all the requirements and conditions of such approvals or permits, including but not limited to the municipality's compliance with any low and moderate housing regulation. If, however, compliance with any other conditions result in a plan that differs from one approved by the board herein, the applicant shall return to the board for all appropriate relief. 10, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall submit final variance plans, if necessary, containing all required additions and corrections for the review and approval by the board engineer. When so approved, the applicant shall file 6 copies of the final plans to the board engineer for signature and transmission to the board's administrative officer. 11, the applicant shall be bound by all exhibits introduced, all representations made, and all testimony given before the board at its meeting of June 1st, 2026. Does anybody have any other additions or corrections to the resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve with that change that you had discussed.
Is there Jeff seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Delarusso? Mr. Greenbaum,
Yes.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Malilla?
Yes.
And Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Motion
Okay. So the matter of Mount Airy Holding, 161 to 163. Whereas an application appealing the decision of an administrative officer pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-70A and local ordinance section LD-3-10.1 has been filed by Mount Airy Holdings LLC, hereinafter designated the applicant, to the Borough of Bernardsville Zoning Board of Adjustment, hereinafter designated the board, for property located at 161-163 Mount Airy Road, Bernardsville, New Jersey, and more specifically known as Block 119, Lot 7 on the tax map of the Borough of Bernardsville, hereinafter designated the Borough of Somerset County, New Jersey, with the subject property having been issued a certificate of nonconformity by resolution dated April 21st, 2022, application number 21-12. And whereas the applicant has submitted an application to the board stating that its proposed use of the subject property is a continuation of previously certified nonconforming use, and whereas a public hearing was held before the board on May 18, 2026 with regard to this application, and whereas the board has heard the testimony and evidence presented by the applicant, witnesses, consultants, and with the public having had a full opportunity to participate, and whereas the applicant filed proof that notice of the hearing was given as required by NJSA 40:55D-12, and whereas a complete application has been filed with increased fees required by Somerset, State of New Jersey, on the 20th day of July 2026, made the following finding conclusion with regard to the application. Findings of facts. 1. The applicant provided adequate notice of the application and the hearing in accordance with statute. 2. The applicant was represented by Stephen M. Merman, Esquire. 3. From a review of the application and attachments, tax map and zoning map to subject property, aerial photographs of the subject property prior to zoning board resolution, which was memorialized in April of 2022, a letter from the applicant's attorney dated January 23rd, 2026, a planning review memorandum of the board's planning consultants dated March 5th, 2026, a denial of application from the Bernardsville zoning officer dated January 7th, 2026, and from the testimony exhibits at the hearing, it would appear that the applicant has applied for a change of occupancy. As previously stated, in 2022, the Board of Adjustment issued a certificate of nonconformity and utility company specializing in aviation lighting systems for installation of various runway and taxiway Federal Aviation Administration certified lighting systems, including infrastructure, underground distribution systems, and mid-voltage substation distribution electrical equipment. The applicant is now proposing storage of electrical materials, aviation lighting equipment, and cargo vans, flatbeds, stake-mounted body trucks, and excavation equipment such as backhoes and trenchers. 4. Denise Falardo, zoning officer of the Borough of Bernardsville, testified with regard to her decision to deny the application. It was her opinion that the proposed use as outlined substantially differed from the prior non-conforming use and requires the application of the Board of Adjustment for further relief. It was indicated by the witness that the prior owner was basically in the residential home construction business, which, in the opinion of the witness, was a lighter use than what was now being proposed. Ms. Falardo offered her opinion that this was an increase in intensity, which required use variance relief that can only be granted by the board. 5. Anthony Gallerano, a licensed engineer and land use planner, testified on behalf of the application. Mr. Gallerano provided the board with a copy of the tax map/zoning map and aerial photographs of the subject property. The witness stated that the subject property was approximately 1.7 acres in size, and that the primary use of the subject property, both then and now, was for equipment storage, with the witness described as a fluid use. In other words, equipment is constantly coming into and going out of the site. It was Mr. Gallerano's opinion as a land use planner and engineer that no additional board approvals would be needed for the proposed use at this point in time. 6. Louis A. D'Amelio and Louis Sr. and Louis A. D'Amelio Jr. testified on behalf of the application. The witnesses represented the tenant of the property, Con L Electric Inc., and also the managing partner of the owner of the property. The witnesses indicated that they are seeking to move their entire business to the borough, and Mr. D'Amelio Sr. stated that he has lived in the borough for over 30 years and would like to relocate the business. Stated that a phase 1 environmental study is currently underway, and that when approved, the applicant will be able to provide more landscaping and fencing surrounding the property. It was the opinion of the witnesses that the use that is being proposed would be of similar intensity as the prior use, which received a certificate of nonconformity. It was stated that the current owner's business involved retooling and maintenance of aviation equipment, including aviation lighting and wires, which they would store on site. It was also stated that approximately 90% of their business is with Newark Airport in terms of aviation lighting issue. It's also stated the business will be in operation from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 80 employees are anticipated to be on the premises at any given time. 7, Allison Fahey, the board land use planner, commented with regard to the application and recommended the applicant be allowed to continue the protected use. Ms. Fahey stated that the phrase construction yard was not specifically defined in the ordinances of the borough, and because of this, what the applicant appears to be proposing is a use very similar to what the board had previously confirmed. Ms. Fahey also stated that in the event the plans for the site change and become more intense, the applicant would need to return to the board for all appropriate approval. 8, 4 members of the public commented with regard to this application and expressed concern regarding impacts to their neighborhood and environmental issues. Conclusion of law. Whereas pursuant to the municipal land use law, specifically NJSA 40:55D-70A, the board has the authority to hear and decide appeals where it is alleged by an applicant that there is an error in any order, requirement, decision, or refusal made by an administrative officer based on or made in the enforcement of the zoning ordinance, and whereas based upon the testimony and evidence presented, including a review of the application and attachments, the prior resolution, and the planning review memorandum as provided by the board planner, it would appear to the board that if the applicant meets the lawful requirements of continuing to use the subject property as a construction yard as described, and appears consistent with the prior approval of the subject property as a pre-existing non-conforming use. And whereas the board is of the opinion that the use as specifically proposed by the applicant for the subject property should continue. Now therefore be it resolved, having reviewed the application and the testimony and evidence presented, it's the determination of the board that the relief sought by the applicant pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-70A is hereby approved, and that the determination of the zoning officer is hereby reversed for the reasons set forth herein. Be it further resolved by the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Borough of Bernardsville, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, on the 20th day of July, 2026, upon the appropriate motion made and seconded, that the appeal of Mount Airy Holdings LLC be granted, and that the determination of the zoning officer is hereby reversed for the reasons set forth herein and subject to the following conditions. 1, as stated by the applicant, the hours of operation for the site shall be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. 2, all storage and renovations regarding the subject property shall take place indoors until such time as the board is presented with a formal site plan indicating specific outdoor areas of the property that will be utilized for storage. This site plan shall be provided to the board and board consultants within 6 months from the date of the memorialization of this resolution. 3, the applicant shall submit proof of payment of all real estate taxes from property. 4, as agreed to by the applicant shall pay in a timely manner all outstanding and future fees and escrow charges. It shall post all performance guarantees in connection with the review of this application prior and subsequent to the approval of this application. 5, the applicant shall be responsible for the obtaining of any other approvals or permits from other governmental agencies that be required by law, and the applicant shall comply with any requirements or conditions of such approvals or permits. If, however, compliance with other conditions would result in a plan that differs from the one approved by the board herein, the applicant shall return to the board for all appropriate relief. 6, the applicant shall submit a copy of this resolution with accompanying documentation to verify the satisfaction of each condition stated herein. 7, the applicant shall be bound by all exhibits introduced, all representations made, and all testimony given before the board at its meeting of May 18, 2026. Any changes or comments on the resolution? I got other guys helping.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Okay.
No change.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion I second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Galuska?
Yeah.
Mr. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Lowell?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That business is out of the way. We move on to public hearing, the Davies RBC Associates application. I will comment that there are only 5 board members here tonight. Okay.
We're all on the same page. So we, look at the time and see if we'll even go.
Okay.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. I'm Robert Falkins from the law of Stephen Sinisi. Can everybody hear me all right?
That's only for recording. We shut off the speakers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I just mean, like, this Is this on?
It should be. Did he turn that one on?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. This is a continued hearing concerning 37 Morristown Road, Block 125, Lot 8, located within the downtown core DC subdistrict. Property is a former gas service station that was later developed with a standalone ATM, driveway loop, and related pavement. The applicant is proposing to replace that obsolete automobile-related condition with an 8-unit multifamily residential building consisting of 7 one-bedroom units, 1 two-bedroom unit with 2 residential floors at an at-grade open-air parking lot. The multifamily residential use is permitted within the downtown core. The principal relief sought is a D5 density variance together with the related bulk and design relief resulting from the unusual size, shape, and frontage and rear conditions of this constrained infill property. Since the prior hearings, the applicant reduced the project from 10 units to 8. Importantly, although the overall unit count was reduced, the applicant eliminated 2 market rate units while retaining the required 2 affordable units as part of that we originally proposed with the 10-unit inclusionary development, thereby continuing to support the borough's affordable housing obligation. The revised project therefore consists of 6 market rate units and 2 affordable rate units, resulting in a 25% affordable set aside. The applicant has also made substantial revisions to the architectural, engineering, parking, circulation, and stormwater plans that were previously submitted with the 10-unit application. The revised project provides 13 physical parking spaces, including required EV and accessible spaces, and incorporates a separate one-way ingress and egress movements. This evening, the applicant's professionals will address the latest review letters and respond directly to the questions concerning the architectural site construction, drainage, environmental conditions, and emergency access and statutory criteria for the requested relief. The applicant has also obtained a written response from its LSRP, which we previously submitted, and we obtained an additional one related to the comments we just received. He was unable to articulate, but we did respond to the engineer's review letter related to the remediation of the storm. We will present that through our engineer's testimony. With that, we'd like to proceed with our report.
Mr. Falkenstern, if I may, you were here on February 2nd.
Yes,
At that time, we swore in your architect,
that's it.
Arlenis.
Yeah.
Male?
Dominguez, she's here.
Okay. You were sworn in. If you testify tonight, you're still under oath. And I had 2 exhibits marked, A1 and A2. So that's, A1 was a colorized rendering of the front exterior. A2 was the revised rendering of the front elevation. So any new exhibits pick up at A3. I apologize for your first. That's it.
Call the first witness, Mr. Eric Rurian. He's our project engineer.
How many witnesses do you propose tonight?
We have 4 here, but I realistically.
Okay, and that would be your architect?
Architect, engineer, traffic engineer.
Thank you. You could raise your right hands, please, sir, when you're ready. With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Eric Rupin. Excuse me. Rupnain.
Is Eric with a C or a K?
C.
Eric, and it's Rupna?
Rain.
Got it. Thank you. Hi, thank you.
Sir.
Well, we need to qualify first.
Yeah, that's it.
We're doing that?
Yeah.
Okay,
We have.
right.
I'm a licensed professional engineer in the states of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I've been licensed in New Jersey since 2003 and in Pennsylvania since about 2010, I believe.
Is your license in good standing tonight?
Yes, in both states.
And have you testified before land use board before the city?
Yes,
The board.
believe so.
His name again.
And have you been qualified as an expert before those land use boards in the state of New Jersey?
Yes,
And approximately how many times have you testified?
several hundreds.
And how long have you been associated with your firm?
About 29 years.
And you've worked on comparable engineering projects as one here tonight?
Yes.
Some more that we offer.
Accepted, thank you.
Sir, can you please briefly describe your scope of engagement with respect to this project?
So my firm was retained to perform a boundary topographic survey of the property in preparation of a site plan for redevelopment of this site. We completed the survey work and the plan that the board has, the site plan set that the board had, prepared by my office under my supervision.
Have you physically inspected the property to perform engagement?
Yes.
And we're going to show you further. Gina, summarizing. Did you prepare those slides?
I did. Yes.
And these plans are the same plan that were previously submitted to them.
Correct.
Mark them as A3.
Thank you.
Well, if we have them, if they were submitted, we shouldn't have to mark them.
If we have them,
Yeah, they're going
we have the revised plans, then we don't need to mark them.
If you
And do we have this in smaller?
This is a direct copy of the photograph.
But that's a larger scale, correct? I mean, oh, it's the back, got it, we're good, we're good.
Can you just tilt that so the audience members can see?
Let me just describe what is the.
Can I just interject before you get started? Go back to the survey. You indicated that it was prepared under your supervision, but you're not a licensed surveyor, right?
Not the survey, but the survey was prepared by my office.
Who prepared the survey? Well, you have a licensed surveyor in your office that prepares?
Yes.
And is the additional certifying that surveyor performed under your jurisdiction?
We have. Okay. Now, Eric, was it just that it was only forgot? Just explain what happened.
So the surveyor's, his actual name and license number is on a separate layer within the oil and gas software. And as part of the layer got turned off. Essentially, these drawings, when they're prepped, it's one file that has multiple abilities for you to turn things on and off. And anyone sure who's used AutoCAD, it's these things just end up on a layer that is not supposed to. And sometimes it ends up on a layer that you can see on your screen, and when you print, it doesn't show up because it's tagged as not to print or something.
But sorry.
Correct.
And so the final documents that get submitted to the board, that signature will be there.
Yes. And we'll definitely. Yeah. As you did briefly walk the board. All right, well then we'll go through the.
So what I have mounted here, this is just a rural aerial photograph of the property and the surrounding area. What I've shown in the highlighted, that's the boundary of the property. And to the west of us, this is the Maven Sire utility. To the north, that is the bedding there. And essentially the intent of this point is just to give the board an overview where the property is located and essentially what's around us. And as you can see, the area is fully developed. That's around 650 property.
So just identify the big things.
So that is the two of the plan set that the board has. The next sheet that I have mounted, this is sheet number 4 of the plan set, and this is the site plan. This sheet shows how the property will be laid out with regard to the building, parking, and so forth. And what we have here, there are two separately shaded areas that confine the building. This lighter shaded area is the overall footprint of the building if you're looking at the building from the side. This is what you would see in terms of the legal area of the building. That's this lighter shaded area. This darker shaded area, that's the part of the building that's going to be constructed with the basement. And within that basement level, that's where the utility room is going to be, that houses all of the fire protection, backflow preventers, and so forth. Will be located within
One
that.
second, Mr. Chairman, I think it would be good if you took the handheld microphone.
Oh, yeah.
You can see it out there. That's easier.
Let me grab that mic. That was on you.
You look in the base, would you prefer? No. New system, just to make sure that you're getting picked up on the recording.
Thank you. So the layout that we developed for this particular property, given the constraints that we have, is the applicant is proposing 2 driveways. The first driveway will be the ingress driveway, and that's located on the westerly side of the property. And then the second driveway, which will be the exit driveway, is located on the easterly side of the property. The way the site has been designed is that traffic entering the parking area turns right into the first driveway, proceed through and under the building, and then when traffic needs to exit, they'll exit through the easterly driveway, and they can go either left or right onto Route 202. This layout provides a total of 14 parking spaces, actual parking spaces, not including the EV credit. We're showing 2 EV parking spaces, which will be located in this southeasterly corner. And then the third EV parking that's being proposed is located adjacent to the proposed handicap parking space. Under the current requirements, for 1 to 25 parking spaces, 1 handicap parking space that's van accessible has to be provided. We are providing 1 van accessible handicap parking space that's located directly to the west of the lobby area. And then the parking space that's identified as number 13, that parking space is EV ready. It's going to be signed as handicap accessible, but it's not going to be signed as a handicap parking space. The borough's engineer has requested additional signage regarding that this should be the last EV space to be utilized. The applicant will certainly comply with those requirements.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
So there's an area of the rendering that is unshaded. Does that
Yes.
mean there's no roof above that?
Correct. All of the parking spaces that are proposed, conventional parking spaces, are 9 by 18 and comply with RSIS. In addition to the parking spaces, the aisle through the parking area at the narrowest point, which is adjacent to the lobby area, it's about 22.1 feet. The remainder of the aisle, as you move towards either the exit or closer towards the ingress, the aisle increases in width. The way we anticipate this project and this property functioning for loading and unloading, what we have done is, in laying out the parking and the access aisle in the building, we've ensured that a trash truck can actually enter the property, circulate through, and a typical trash truck is about 30, 32, 33 feet long. That truck can enter the parking area and then exit without the need for backing up or any other types of maneuvering under the building. The ordinance requires a typical loading zone. The applicant is not proposing a loading zone for this particular project, given the size of the project. What we have done is, with the one-way circulation, any loading, typically Amazon, FedEx, UPS, USPS, any type of deliveries that might occur utilizing those types of services, they're generally on site for a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, perhaps 10 minutes at the most. What we anticipate is that they would enter the property, enter the parking area. They could stop adjacent to the lobby entrance. The width in that area is about 22 feet. Most trucks are going to be less than 8 feet wide. Most delivery vehicles are less than 8 feet wide. That provides at least, depending on how close to the building they park, approximately 12 to 14 feet, which would allow traffic to continue to move through the facility without anyone being impacted. The only potential impact that we might have is someone that's potentially parked in one of these parking spaces while the truck is stopped to unload or load. Essentially, that's how we anticipate the layout of the property functioning.
Now, back to the parking notice, the applicant are they going to assign the spaces to the tenants, or are they going to be, do you know what the applicant's proposing?
So what we anticipate currently is that with the 8 units that are being proposed, 8 parking spaces or 1 for each unit will be assigned. The remaining 14 parking spaces that we have, or I'm sorry, the remaining 6 parking spaces, that'll be available for additional tenants and or visitors that would utilize the property. And the final sheet that I have mounted, yes.
Excuse me, have you considered in those 6 extra spaces a layout or potential design for where a moving truck could take their in, do their loading and then pull? In other words, you're saying you have 6 extra spaces. With the extra, is there a way to somehow incorporate within inside those extra spaces a loading zone so it would be out of the way of the traffic in the interior?
So the parking spaces are not necessarily extra parking spaces under the parking requirements of RSIS. We're providing, I believe it's 19 parking spaces that's required. No, I'm sorry, 17 that's required. And taking credit for the EV, we're providing the minimum number that's required. If we were to designate one of those parking spaces for deliveries, then the applicant will be short one parking space.
So there's no extra to be clear to the public?
Correct.
Okay.
The other question is, how would moving truck get handled, given that people move in, people move out?
So moving will have to be coordinated with the manager of the building. Typically, we will have, what we anticipate is to have designated times when moving trucks can come onto the property. Again, box trucks can enter the property and navigate through, but a typical tractor trailer would not be able to enter the property. Any deliveries or moving in or out that requires that type is going to require some other off-site provision. But we anticipate coordinating any moving in or out of the property with the building manager.
And where will the building manager be located?
We haven't worked out who will actually, or where the office will be, but we don't anticipate any on-site manager.
Okay, so all of the residents will need to know if they have to reach out to the building manager to do things like that.
Certainly, and that can be incorporated into any lease agreement.
Are you anticipating on-site or off-site management from what they
just said off-site.
Yeah, so it's off-site then?
Yes.
Okay.
And the final plan that I have mounted is, this is the grading and utility plan, and this is sheet number 5 of the plan set. And again, this plan shaded area is the building or the roof portion of the building. The open area that we have, these are areas of the parking that's open to the air. What this plan shows, it shows the configuration of the drainage system and the other improvements that needs to be constructed as part of this development. In accordance with the ordinance, we're proposing to construct a dry well within this southerly portion of the property. And the dry well is going to be constructed using clean stones and perforated pipe. All of the roof leaders, all of the downspouts from the building will be interconnected through underground piping and will discharge directly into the dry well. Any runoff collected by the dry well is going to infiltrate into the ground. Excess runoff, what we created was provision that any excess runoff can essentially flow out of the dry well through the graded manhole and then across the parking area into the railroad property. Presently, runoff from this property all goes in a southerly direction into the railroad property. The borough's engineer did have some recommendation regarding reconfiguration and redesigning the overflow, and the applicant is certainly amenable to making those plan revisions. In addition to the dry well, the entire area along the southerly property line beyond our track, this consists of relatively steep slopes, about 2-to-1, depending upon where you are. That property is all controlled by New Jersey Transit. In order to prevent errant cars from actually leaving the property, there's a guide rail system that we're proposing. And the way I anticipated that system functioning is a grade beam, which would be constructed within our property, completely within our property. And to that grade beam, conventional steel guide rails can be attached. There's some recommendation from the borough's engineer regarding redesigning the guide rail system. We're certainly open to making other plan revisions. Instead of that beam guide rail setup, we could extend a parapet wall, which would be a part of the grade beam system, and that'll provide even within that system, openings can be created at the base, typically somewhat the way you would see New Jersey barriers within a divided highway, where there's opening at the bottom that allow water to pass through. Within that type of system, we could actually create these openings, which would allow excess stormwater runoff to flow across the property and into the New Jersey Transit property.
So, one question. Why did you choose the building close to the highway? Why did you shut it back more near New Jersey Transit?
So the layout of the building and I'll defer to the architect regarding how the interior parts of the building. From the stair tower and the lobby area, in order to get traffic to circulate through the property, we try to create as conforming of an aisle as we could possibly create, and anything less than 20 feet doesn't function properly. If the board might remember, the original rendition of the site plan created a drive aisle that was slightly more than 20 feet, and it becomes very cumbersome for cars to get into and out of the parking spaces. So if the building were to move back, the need for a secondary means of ingress or 2 stair towers on the property actually brings the lobby area and the stair tower closer together, which gets us back to what we had originally, a relatively tight parking area.
Unless you put one of the stair towers in the furthest westerly corner, which would be your biggest area for your radius, and then you could shrink the building back off the front.
I'll defer that to the architects as to how we could perhaps reconfigure the building. Yes.
I may have missed it, but you were saying now you can get like FedEx trucks, UPS trucks, all that, they can pull them. But like when somebody moves in and they have like a semi full of furniture, they can't pull in, so where are they going to unload?
So that type of delivery is going to have to be coordinated with the manager, that we clearly cannot accommodate any type of tractor trailer on this property. And we're not allowed to double park on Morristown Road.
So the manager is not gonna have any pull with anywhere else, what are they gonna say? They'll park at shop right and wheel it down the road?
What we do anticipate is that given the limitation of the types of truck that can enter the property, that any deliveries will have to be coordinated with whoever the supplier is, be it like the furniture store, that they cannot deliver using tractor trailer.
Your moving company's gonna have to take the tractor trailer, take it apart, break it down, put it in box trucks and deliver it in box trucks. Yeah. So it's a multi-stage move. Make people real happy. I'm concerned about the stormwater management, and I've read Steve's report, our engineer. I'm concerned about the size of the stormwater management. What is it designed to handle? Is it designed to handle the 20-year storm, the 100-year storm? What is it designed for? And also the discharge. The other thing that I'm very concerned about is the parking area along the back wall. You're talking about this guide beam. I don't know anything about it. I don't know what it's designed to hold up. But I can envision somebody hitting the gas instead of the brake when they're parking and driving a car right through the wall. And then it goes down, and hopefully not when a train's going by. So I would want the back wall to be as strong as what we have on our highways, so that somebody can hit it with a car at full force and it doesn't move. I don't know how to do that, but can you handle that?
Yes, because, so guide rails, there are several different ways that you can construct guide rail. Sometimes guide rails on the side of a bridge, for instance, the actual beams or the column and the beams, the post is bolted into the side of the deck. You may have seen some of the guide rails where you actually have base plates that are part of the post that's bolted in to the actual concrete decking. That's one way to handle it. That's the way we anticipated this functioning. Now, acknowledging the borough's engineers, his recommendation is not to do it that way, and we're fine changing it to actually extend essentially what would be a parapet wall vertically from that beam, from that grade beam that would extend above the surface. The parapet wall, that type of situation, all of the reinforcement is continuous. The actual foundation or the footing, which would be the grade beam, the reinforcement that's in that is continuous with the parapet. So essentially, if you were to hit it at whatever velocity, you might be able to accelerate through the 80 feet, I believe is what we have. At whatever that velocity is, there's continuous reinforcement horizontally and vertically that it's virtually impossible for you to break completely through it. You would have to be moving at a very significant velocity in order for that to happen.
I can see where somebody could, mistakenly hit the gas and be 20 or 30 miles an hour by the time they get to the wall. So as long as it can handle that, do you have any analyses that show that?
We haven't done any analysis on actually designing that system yet, but as part of any approval that the board may grant, we certainly provide the board and the borough engineer.
Yeah, I think there needs to be some structural analysis done for that.
No, certainly we could provide that.
Because there's a train down there that has people on it, so I'd want to be sure that. So back to the stormwater management.
So this project, by definition, is not a major stormwater management, so we're not designing for the 10-year or the 25-year or the 100-year storm. It's a minor stormwater project under the borough's ordinance. What we have designed the project for is 3 inches of rainfall. The board's engineer recommended safety factor of 50%. So instead of designing it for 3 inches of rainfall, it's actually designed for 4.5 inches of rainfall, which is slightly less than the 10-year storm.
Well, it's over the increase in impervious area,
Correct.
so it's not taking into account, the existing impervious area, just over the increase of the impervious. So what they're proposing now, above what exists, is what they're storing that runoff for.
But what exists is going to be thrown away when they excavate the site.
Yeah, effectively, they're taking credit for the existing impervious area, which normally is something that would be done.
So they're taking credit, so they're saying that you're saying that you only need to recover 4.5 inches for the increase in impervious, and the current impervious is just a simple driveway. It's not covering the whole site. So it's a fairly substantial driveway considering the size of the site, but so you're only doing impervious cover, you're only reclaiming impervious coverage for the areas that currently are not impervious.
Yes.
I think you need to do the whole site. You're covering the whole site with concrete and macadam, you need to do the whole site.
and also be able to control the water that goes over so that you even, as you testified, so it doesn't underpin your grade beam and to affect that 40-foot slope that goes down to the railroad track. So that's a significant more water retention than you're showing in this plan. You might have to do the whole site. If what you've shown is what's not impervious now.
Eric, do you have the existing conditions on the board, or?
It's in the plans.
It's in, yeah, I have it mounted.
Currently exists, so we can.
Sheet 3. Been corrected. He can read better than I do.
It's in.
What is this? Look at what you're dealing with.
So this is a copy of the survey that my office prepared. This is sheet 3 of the set. This one has the signature of the surveyor and the license number on it. And essentially what we have right now on the property, it's a fairly wide loop driveway that used to function, I believe, for the ATM, so the bank's ATM that used to be on the property. And all of this non-shaded area within the property, that's all of the area currently that's pervious, that either has grass or some other type of vegetation.
What is the existing impervious cover down low?
So currently there's about 3,113 square feet of impervious surface on the property. And the applicant's proposal will increase that coverage to approximately 7,288 square feet. So we're slightly more than doubling the amount of impervious surface on the property.
And what is proposed is to capture, your calculations are based on just the
Increase.
increase. Right, so I understand where your concern is coming
The
from.
72 minus the
It's like
31.
kind of playing with numbers a little bit.
Yeah. And the current, the driveway that's there, I don't know what stormwater management exists for it, if any, because it was put in a long time ago, like 20 years ago. I don't know if there is any stormwater management other than the water drains into the street because it's a drive. I don't know.
Yeah, there's an existing surface basin at the rear. It'd be the rear southerly southwest corner. It's basically a depression that overflows to the railroad.
Yeah, I don't think it's a basin per se. I know there's some stone in that area.
That was a drainage control. And I'm just taking another look at the report. What they're actually doing is storing for the greater of the 3 inches in runoff from the increase or the proposed roof area. In this case, the proposed roof area is done. And it's a 3 inches runoff plus 1.5 safety factor for the 4.5 inches off the roof area. Since that was provided a greater runoff line versus just using 3 inches over the increase.
So they're doing the roof area,
Doing the roof area.
which is everything but those half a dozen parking places. So increasing the stormwater management to pick up a half a dozen parking places or whatever the number is not that great an increase.
No, yeah, I think that's something that the engineer should be able to incorporate into their design.
Pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like I've got enough room within the parking area itself that we could expand the drywall system to account for the additional parking space.
Yeah, I think you should pick up all of it.
Understood.
New construction, you can pick up all of it. Okay.
Now, can you walk them through just how stormwater will flow into the site and out of the site?
So what we anticipate is with the building and the roof system, all of the gutters, we've got this, the dash lines, the heavy dash lines that are shown, those are proposed underground drainage pipes that'll tie all of the roof downspouts together and then discharge into the dry well. The way we've designed the dry well is that there's going to be a manhole essentially that all of the water comes into. From that manhole, there's a perforated pipe that extends the width of the dry well that then take the water that's collected within that manhole and spreads it out through the stone layer. Essentially, the manhole becomes a mechanism where if there's any debris that gets washed into the system, we have the ability to open it up and then remove the debris out of that, from that area. And that's essentially how the dry well will function.
When it overtops, where does the water go?
So presently, all of the water, without anything on the property, it all essentially overflows into the railroad property. Once this system fills up, the water will continue down into the railroad property.
Where's the discharge for that?
So the way we set this up is that instead of using a solid grate for the manhole itself, it's a grated lid. So as that system fills up, the water bubbles out. Open guide rails set up so that it gives the water a means to get off of the property. The other scenario regarding the parapet wall will create openings along the base of the wall, which will still allow the water to enter or leave the property and then enter the railroad's property.
So with a heavy enough storm, have you seen the videos from the storm last week in like Jersey City? Where the water is just squirting out of the manholes? So if you happen to have that parking place on top of the manhole, your bottom of your car gets washed?
I don't think we're going to have quite that volume or velocity of water. We've got about 4.5 inches of rainfall, even with the enlarged dry well. We'll be able to store 4.5 inches.
An inch and a half. But if it does overflow, where, could you just show how where the water would travel? Maybe the grades of the site would help that?
It essentially, when the system overflows, the water is going to continue down in a southerly direction and into the railroad's property. So if it's an inch and a half.
This where the large circle, the large dark circle, that's a grate.
Yes.
Yeah. So if there happens to be a lot of velocity, whoever's parked on top of it, and the bottom of the car gets washed.
Whatever, because the railroad property sits below our property, so the water point.
Correct.
Back to David's point, with regards to the calculation to do the entire, let's make it simple, will you increase your stone, your riverbed stone, or use the surface of the parking lot considering the discharge from your grate? Will that be part of your calculation? In other words, satisfying the overflow, or will you satisfy the overflow under the ground?
Yeah, so we'll increase the size of the dry well because the dry well is what provides us with the volumetric storage that's needed for the entire project. Mm-hmm. The overflow, one recommendation from the borough's engineer is that with a solid parapet wall at the back, what we'll have to do is create openings at the base of the wall. So instead of, right now, the way this is designed, I've got one grate where the water comes out and overflows the parking area. The scenario that the board's engineer is suggesting is this grate will still be used. With an expanded dry well, I may provide a second manhole. But it'll still function the same way. The system fills up, the water rises up, comes out of the grate, and then overflows the parking area into the railroad's property.
So are you saying from the a fully poured wall with slots in it so that it would slightly run over down the 40 feet down to the railroad property? That's
Yes.
what you're saying?
Correct.
So the discharge still would go down into the railroad's property at if you went over 4.5 inches sized on the entire building like David was proposing,
Correct.
correct? And would you be able to give us that calculation of, let's say if it was a 5.5 inch storm, how much water would come into this parking lot that would come over that would cascade over?
Yes, we could certainly amend the report in any future revisions to include that.
Okay.
And anything that doesn't overflow would percolate into the ground,
Correct.
presumably.
So that wall, that grade beam, will it be complete? In other words, what will be your finish on that? I know you're worried about the erosion from here to the railroad tracks. So what will be your finish on this 40-foot slope? What are you proposing?
So-
Riprap, like 8-inch
They
riprap?
can't do anything with the slope, they don't own it.
Oh, that's right, they're on the zero lot line. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, never mind.
Have a
So
good time.
Okay, got it.
the grade beam is going, essentially, right now, the way the parking lot is graded is that the finish elevation along the back edge is the existing ground. So any water as it flows across, excess runoff as it flows across the parking area, just continues downslope into the railroad's property.
So you have to have the little square notches, whatever, in the bottom of that wall to let the water out.
Yes.
Yeah,
We have a pool.
exactly.
Going into
It's a swimming pool.
There we go.
Amenity.
But to be clear, with the design that you're currently have, you don't have the additional feature you add.
Correct.
Okay.
Have you reached out to the railroad and see if there's anything you can do to use that?
We have not spoken to the railroad yet.
You have a concern that with any overflow, it could erode the embankment and undermine your curb wall or beam?
Right now, no, there is some vegetation along the back of off-site within the railroad's property. We don't really anticipate any problems there, but we'll certainly talk to the railroad to see if there's something that they would like us to do.
How are you gonna be able to construct the wall without touching the railroad's property?
So in this particular setup, the actual grade beam is not sitting on the back property line. The only part of the structure, the grade beam is in about, I believe it's about 7 or 8 inches from the property line. This type of construction generally just requires about 3 feet of excavation just to get us below the frost line. Most excavation, depending on the type of soils that you have, I've seen it where you could almost cut vertical walls. In relatively shallow depth, I don't anticipate any issue regarding the grade beam construction. I don't think we're going deep enough where we're going to have an issue.
Okay.
It's concluded that you'll reach out to the railroad to see if, because of the excess water that will be coming onto their property, that what kind of improvements they would want to their property to prevent the undermining of your parking lot.
Yes.
Okay. Go through all the pages of that included?
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for the engineer?
I have,
I got it.
Okay, good, all right.
I know we've been discussing the drainage. I know you prepared a report called the hydraulic report prepared by you and revised through June 19, 2026. Did you prepare that report?
I did.
And this report was previously submitted to the board, is that correct?
Yes.
And could you please summarize the purpose of this report, the stormwater water management system proposed for the site?
So the report essentially documents the calculation in sizing the dry well system, 4.5 inches of rainfall, roof area. It documents the various parameters that we'll use to figure out how much volume of runoff is generated by this property that we need to control. And in addition to that, it does have capacity analysis for the roof leader pipes to show that we can get all of the water from the roof into the system.
And your stormwater management report would comply with any NJDP requirements and regulations?
Yes.
Now, I show you next a report entitled Environmental Condition Evaluation for Residential Development prepared by LSRP Consulting LLC and dated June 15, 2026. Have you reviewed this report in connection with your proceeding tonight?
I did.
I believe we submitted this to the board, so, but could you just summarize your understandings and your discussions with the LSRP?
So in preparation of the site plan, with the understanding that we do have some contamination issue or previous contamination issues on the property, we wanted to make sure that a residential development was suitable and can be built. Also, given the fact that we're going to be infiltrating groundwater, we wanted to also make sure that we didn't have any issues regarding DEP's restrictions on the property that would prevent groundwater infiltration. I also spoke to the LSRP, Keith, I believe it was on Friday, in regards to the revised plans. And his conclusion is based on the current status of the property and the restrictions by NJDEP, that residential construction is suitable and is not restricted on the property. And the drywall system, the infiltration system that we're proposing, there's no restriction utilizing that type of system on the property.
And you certainly, with any redesign, or you would coordinate with Keith, the LSRP, to confirm that these representation based on any new system would also comply with any environmental conditions?
Yes.
Now, I show you the review, have you had the opportunity to review the board's engineer review correspondence dated July 16, 2026?
I did.
Now, did you review that members with other members of the professional team?
I did.
And in response specifically, since we're talking about the environmental, did you have the opportunity to review a letter from Keith Gagnon, LSRP, dated July 16, 2026?
I did.
I'll pass it out. We didn't have time. So, and do you know what the reason for this report was? Was it to respond to the engineer's comments?
Correct. There were a couple of questions raised by the board's engineer in his review memo, and this letter from our LSRP addresses those concerns.
Yes. A3 would be a letter from LSRP Consulting dating July 20th. It's addressed to the applicant.
Could you briefly just summarize your understanding of this letter and any discussions you had with Mr. Gagnon?
So essentially, this letter summarizes what I previously testified to, is that construction of a residential multifamily building on this property, that there is no restriction from NJDEP's perspective. Addition to that, that infiltration of groundwater is not going to exacerbate or create any additional contamination. And we do not have any restriction on infiltration systems on this property.
So is it accurate to state that infiltration would be permissible at this site?
Yes.
And that would comply in the understanding of the NJDEP regulations and any environmental contamination on site?
Yes.
And do you know what Mr. Gagnon's finding as to the severity of the current conditions on site?
So what he has indicated is that it's not dissipating or it's not reducing as much as they would anticipate. That additional monitoring and ongoing monitoring is going to be necessary with this project. Further testing is necessary or as required by Shell will have to be completed and submitted to DEP.
Now, do you believe from an engineering coordination standpoint, his conclusions are consistent with your design for the stormwater system?
Yes.
And I know you previously testified this, but can this final stormwater system be designed in coordination with the LSRP and board engineer to confirm this before construction permits were ever issued?
Yes.
Now, respect to the survey, I know it was brought up and you addressed it when you first testified, but you do have a signed sealed survey by a licensed surveyor in the state of New Jersey.
I do.
And we will provide an official signed copy as requested by the board.
Correct.
And the survey that will be submitted is the exact same survey with just the signature and name on it that was submitted to them.
Yes.
Now, can you just describe, is the lower parking level proposed as an at-grade open-air parking lot?
Yes.
And I know you went over it, but it's the entrance and exit. Can you just briefly describe how access into that garage would work?
So again, referring to the exhibit that's mounted on the easel, is Morristown Road is located to the top or north of the property. The westerlymost driveway is going to be the ingress. Traffic entering the property will turn right into the garage or the parking area, drive through the project, drive through the parking area, and then exit through that easterly driveway.
Now, although the parking level is open air, is the majority of the parking located beneath the building and screened from direct view from Morristown Road?
Yes, about the only part of the parking area that's going to be visible are the parking spaces adjacent or directly in line with the two driveways. All of the other parking areas are going to be screened by the building.
So from the street, are the principal visible elements limited primarily to the entrance and exit openings rather than the full parking lot area?
Yes,
Now, does the building design together with the location of the parking beneath the residential floors reduce the visual prominence of parked vehicles from Morristown Road and the surrounding area?
it does.
Does the open air configuration also facilitate ventilation, emergency access, deliveries, trash collection, tenant move-ins and move-outs, and internal circulation?
Yes,
Can the civil and architectural plan be revised if necessary to depict the open air treatment and screening of the parking level consistently?
yes,
And from a site engineering and circulation standpoint, does the open air parking design safely accommodate the proposed one-way entrance and one-way exit while minimizing the visibility of the parking from Morristown Road?
yes,
And the current revised plan provides for 13 physical parking spaces, correct?
actually, it's 14 parking
14
spaces.
parking spaces. Now, how many of them are EV?
A total of 3 parking spaces are EV.
And how many?
EV ordinance.
And I know it was a recent interpretation by the state, but one of we now have an EV space that is, while not handicap, ADA accessible.
Yes, and again, that's the EV space that's located adjacent to the signed handicap parking space.
Now, could you please briefly explain the proposed electric, water, fire, safety meter, backflow prevention, sprinkler system connections, where they'd be located?
So all of the fire protection, the backflow preventers, any valving for the sprinkler system is going to be located within the basement area of the building. And that was the intent of constructing the basement part of the building, is so that we have a place where we could actually put all of the apparatus that's needed for fire protection.
And from your understanding, if not, will the building's emergency fire protection elevator and life safety systems be designed to comply with all applicable code requirements without a generator?
Yes,
Can the final plans identify the water service size, the domestic and fire service lines, meter location, backflow prevention equipment, and sprinkler room components?
correct.
And will all required utility company and fire service approval be obtained before construction permits are issued?
Yes,
And the board engineer has requested testimony concerning how the project can be constructed, given the proposed 0 side yard setbacks, the retaining wall, and vehicle protection systems. I know we've briefly touched upon that, but is it your understanding that the proposed project is constructible?
yes.
And what, if needed, could the applicant seek construction easement from adjoining properties?
We can certainly approach the 2 property owners, the Mavis Tire, which is located to the west of us, and then the veterinarian that's located to the east or the right of us. Again, all of the physical improvements for this particular building is located on our property. There's no structural encroachment on any of the adjoining properties.
Now, can all permanent improvements be constructed entirely within the boundaries of the subject property?
Yes,
Based upon the present design, do you anticipate that any excavation, sheeting, shoring, formwork, scaffolding, bracing, cranes, lifts, or temporary construction activity will extend onto the adjoining property or property controlled by NJ Transit?
no,
If any temporary access would require, we would seek permission before you would ever enter the property, is that correct?
correct.
And could any final construction documents identify any required temporary support or access measures?
Yes.
And how can construction material
Anticipate regarding the building is that once the foundation has been constructed, that ground level can be used for staging of material if necessary. It's, as the board is aware, this is a fairly tight site, so coordination between all of the contractors and subcontractors is going to be done by the builder to make sure that we don't need excessive amounts of material or any type of storage on the property itself. That'll be minimized so that whatever material is needed is going to be used. But it's all going to be coordinated between the various subs.
And can a construction staging and logistic plan be prepared before construction begins?
Yes,
And can that plan address delivery hours, worker parking, material storage, equipment placement, and maintenance of safe access to the site?
yes.
And will any phase of construction temporarily affect Morristown Road or the public right of way?
So the applicant does require NJDOT permits for both driveways. As part of that permit, there's going to be sidewalk replacement and curb replacement and repair that's necessary within Morristown Road. That is the only work that's anticipated within DOT's right-of-way. And once that work is completed, there's going to be no additional encroachment within the right-of-way.
And the applicant will obtain all required NJDOT permits and approvals?
Yes,
And will appropriate traffic control and pedestrian safety plan be implemented while construction was being undertaken?
yes.
And do you know how the construction activities will be coordinated with the existing overhead electric lines along Morristown Road?
So right now, the overhead lines are closer to the curb line than they are to the actual right-of-way line. So any sort of insulation or protection that needs to be applied to the line while the building is being constructed is going to be coordinated with the utility company. But we do have adequate room between the utility lines themselves and the building to facilitate construction.
And will any required utility company clearances and safety measures be established before cranes, lifts, or other elevated equipment are used on site?
Yes,
Can the rear retaining grade beam, parapet, guide rail, and vehicle protection system be designed and constructed without destabilizing the rear slope or adversely affecting the railroad area?
yes,
And will the final system be designed and reviewed by a New Jersey licensed structural engineer?
yes,
Will the plans identify the property line, limits of excavation, temporary support measure, and the location of each structure and vehicle protection component?
yes.
Once construction is complete, can the building, utilities, drainage facilities, retaining system, garage area, and other site improvements be inspected, serviced, and maintained without permanent encroachment onto adjoining property?
Yes,
Will review, approval, or coordination with the NJ Transit be required because of the project's close proximity to the railroad?
yes,
And if so, you will obtain those required approvals.
correct.
Now, subject to final construction design, construction documents, agency approvals, and appropriate construction controls, is there any engineering reason why this project cannot safely be constructed and maintained?
No,
No. I know we went over this, but briefly to touch upon the proposed rear grade beam, retaining wall, parapet, or vehicle protection system.
so as I indicated previously, in lieu of the beam guide rail protection that we are proposing, the revisions to the plan will include a parapet wall that's reinforced and permanently connected to the grade beam system. That'll provide protection for any traffic that may errantly accelerate downhill or try to accelerate. That system is going to be designed, the impact analysis that's been requested, be it 20 miles or 30 miles an hour, that analysis is going to be incorporated into any of the structural calculations and provided to the board's engineer for review.
And it's your testimony that would be done by a licensed structural engineer?
Yes.
How will the silt fences and other soil erosion measures be installed with implementing disturbance?
So what we anticipate in terms of construction is with the revision from the beam guide rail configuration where it's actually bolted to what was the southerly face of the beam, the grade beam, extending the backside of the grade beam, utilizing that as a parapet wall. That's actually going to give us a couple of inches between the edge of the grade beam of the property line, the rear property line, to install silt fences. Now, typical silt fences are generally mounted on 2x2 square stakes. And they're generally just hammered into the ground. The bottom or the base of a silt fence is usually placed in a trench, typically about 6 inches wide, and then the soil is backfilled to stabilize the bottom. In our scenario, we have enough room between the back or the backside of the grade beam and the property line where the silt fences can be placed. Along the base, where instead of embedding the silt fence, it might be possible to embed or attach the silt fence to the back of the parapet system to actually provide protection, downslope protection from siltation.
And now will the final soil erosion sediment control plan be submitted for approval by the Somerset Union Soil Conservation District?
Yes,
Now, we're going back to the stormwater management. Will all the roof leaders and downspouts discharge into the dry well system?
yes,
Can the plans and hydraulical report be revised to clarify that the drywall dimensions, elevation, inverts, profiles, manhole details, slab design and connections?
yes.
Now, I know we went over it, so I won't, but how will the system address runoff during stormwaters exceeding its design capacity?
Essentially, even in the revisions that we anticipate, excess runoff is going to overflow through the grate and will continue downslope along the parking area into the railroad's property.
Now, could you please discuss how fire and emergency personnel and equipment will access and serve the building?
So in terms of emergency, ambulances will be able to enter, typical ambulance, they can enter the parking area and navigate through the parking area. Fire apparatus, fire trucks, ladder trucks, they will not be able to enter the building. Essentially, if there's the need for that type of equipment on the property, they're going to have to utilize Morristown Road. They will not be able to enter the building.
Now, so you testified that, but an ambulance could enter the site?
Yes,
Now, have you seen the recent fire review correspondence that was submitted?
I did.
And is there any code requirements or fire department requirements concerning access, emergency controls, fire service, sprinkler connections, or building identification that the applicant couldn't comply with?
No.
Now, no separate loading spaces proposed. How will, I know we briefly touched on, but how will tenants move in and move out and deliveries and trash collection occur?
Again, move in and out, they will have to be coordinated with the building manager. Trash collection, what we have in laying the site out, trash trucks can enter the property and exit the property. On the ground level or at that first floor level, there is a compactor room where any refuse that's generated by the facility can be removed from that directly into a trash truck that's parked within the parking area and then exit the property.
And where applicants,
Hang on just a minute. On the trash, you, typically, people use dumpsters for trash. Is that going to be used at this site?
Dumpsters, no.
What are you going to use?
There's a refuse room that has a compactor in it.
Okay,
So any trash that's collected within that area, if they're in cans, once the trash truck is within that basement area, will be removed into the trash truck. It's not,
what receptacles will we use? Hold trash until the garbage?
yeah, there will be what is the dumpster, there's all around.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Typically, all of the garbage trucks these days use mechanical devices to lift those cans. Will there be enough headroom so that the garbage truck can dump that stuff into the truck? Or is it going to hit the roof of the parking area?
You were proposing private garbage, and we would stipulate that it would be picked up by a smaller truck that would not lift it, be able to, they just throw it.
Thank you.
Will you have private recycling pickup as well?
yes,
Now, will the property owner establish and could he include it as part of his lease's reasonable procedures or scheduling requirements for large deliveries and tenant move-outs or move-ins?
yes,
And it was previously testified that parking spaces would be assigned to each unit, is that correct?
correct.
So during the move-out, if the tenant were to bring a smaller van, or they could park in that spot to move in, would that be accurate?
Correct. The smaller vans would be able to temporarily park within the driveway area.
Now, there was questions about landscaping and street tree improvements. Could you briefly just touch upon that?
So in terms of landscaping, the only place where we have that landscaping can be installed is between the sidewalk on Morristown Road and the front of the building. So what we're proposing, and it's included as part of the plan set, are several trees along the frontage of the building and also shrubs along the foundation of the building within that area. That essentially comprises the landscaping. Lighting for the property, we do have some wall sconces that will be coordinated with the architect's plan in any future revisions. But the intent of those they're not site lighting per se, they're just more or less accent lighting for the building. Within the actual parking area, what we have are ceiling mounted light fixtures. And those fixtures are going to be completely screened from any of the public. Essentially, they're mounted a few inches down from the ceiling of the building, and all of the light is going to be dispersed within the parking area. That type of lighting, I don't anticipate any impact to any of the adjoining properties, given the way where the lights are located and how they're positioned.
And that comment also includes the 7 exposed parking spaces on the rear, that you're not going to have any light that would be seen by the properties on the other side of the railroad tracks.
So there is a lighting analysis, and if revisions are necessary to minimize any off-site lighting or spillage into the railroad's property, we can certainly accomplish that in plan revisions. But if from the other side of the railroad, if you're looking towards the property, you are going to see some of the lights, not the lights themselves, the fixtures, but you're going to see an area that's lit.
Okay, those properties across the railroad tracks are lower than Morristown Road. Does your comment still hold?
We could shield and screen the lights. So yes, we could prevent the actual light source from being viewed. However, you will see an area that's lit.
I think we need to do as much be screened from the light, so.
Understood.
And would the lights have the ability to be dimmed?
Yes, I'm not too sure about deemed, but the lights can certainly be on timers. Most of the modern LED fixtures are dimmable, and generally the way we spec them out is that they should include some sort of dimming control so that we have the ability to control the actual amount of light on the property at any point. They could also be motion activated as necessary so that we don't have an area that's lit if it's not needed.
And would the applicant agree as potential condition of approval to have a review period? If the light was excessive, we could have the ability to dim it if there is any complaints?
No, certainly, and that's the intent of specifying the fixtures to be dimmable, that we have the ability post-construction control to make adjustments as needed.
Building lights and that timer.
Yes,
Is the lighting designed to avoid unnecessary glare when the Morristown Road?
yes,
And you could accomplish that with screening of the lighting and dimming and potential, operation.
correct.
Now, if the project is approved, will the applicant obtain all required approvals from NJDOT, Somerset County Planning Board, the Conservation District, the Bernardsville Department of Public Works, and the applicable water utility, NJ Transit, and other agencies having jurisdiction?
Yes,
Now, subject to the revisions that we've discussed tonight, are all of the board engineers' remaining comments capable of being addressed without materially changing the proposed 8 units of the overall site layout?
yes.
Now, turning your attention to the board planners review correspondence, can the project comply with any of the frontage design guidelines with this application for public and private frontage?
No,
Let's see the architects.
yeah.
Now, do you have any opinion as to whether the site plan, subject to the revisions and coordinations discussed, would pose any substantial adverse detriment to the public good or substantially impair the intent and purpose of the borough zoning plan, zoning ordinance, or master plan?
I believe the design that we've actually provided to the board addresses the typical engineering items and designs and specifications necessary for residential construction.
And in your opinion, does the applicant's site plan, once finalized and subject to outside agency approvals, material comply with and satisfy the requirement of the Bernardsville site plan ordinance?
Yes,
And is your testimony as well that the drainage plan proposed complies with all of the applicant's requested variance and site plan relief, would there be any substantial material adverse impact on the surrounding area, Morristown Road and adjacent railroad property?
No.
From an engineering and site design standpoint, can you describe the physical constraints on the property, including its size, frontage, existing development condition, proximity to Morristown Road and the rear area?
So the property is generally constrained with developments on both sides of us. To the east and west, we have properties that are fully improved. Along the south is the railroad, and immediately beyond our southerly property line is a fairly steep downhill slope. The applicant is not proposing any encroachment within that steep slope area that's off-site. Morristown Road is about 12 feet, plus or minus the curb line from Morristown Road from the front of our building. So we have a very limited site in which we're proposing construction of the project.
So in your opinion, were those physical site constraints important in developing the proposed layout, including the building placement, parking configuration, driveway circulation, and stormwater design?
Yes,
And from an engineering standpoint, does the proposed plan make an efficient use of already developed downtown core area?
yes,
Does the proposed design maintain pedestrian access to Morristown Road and the surrounding downtown area?
yes,
From an engineering standpoint, do the proposed sidewalk connections and frontage improvements support pedestrian circulation and walkability?
yes,
Subject to final technical review, are the drainage, utility, access, parking, EV, and construction-related comments raised by the board engineer capable of being addressed without material changing the proposed use or overall site layout?
yes,
Are there any engineering comments in the board's letter that cannot be addressed through revised plans?
no,
Based on your review, is the proposed plan an engineering feasible plan for this site?
yes.
That's all.
Okay. Excuse me, guys. A couple of questions came up looking at this LSRT letter. Specifically on point 2 here, where your consultant states the proposed stormwater infiltration will not increase the contaminant concentrations, I get that, nor spread the contamination farther than the current extent. I have an issue with that comment. How are you going to assure that when you're digging into the ground that is supposedly contaminated, putting in the dry well, and you've got an overflow? So how can you assure that you're not spreading the contamination when you've got overflow from the dry well that's in the contaminated soil?
So in my conversation with the LSRP, it's the water is not what's transporting the contamination. So the dry well system itself, infiltration into the soil is not going to cause it to spread. I could certainly pose that question and have a more detailed report provided as to why he believes that it's not going to spread any contamination.
How deep is the contamination today?
I don't know.
How deep is the dry well going to be?
So our proposed dry well, I believe it's about 4 feet.
Okay. Where will there still be monitoring wells for the contamination?
Yes. So presently, there are several monitoring wells on the property. And what we're going to have to do as part of any construction, the ground level, the parking area, there's going to be great adjustments that are made. The monitoring wells are basically cement casings in the floor. Those elevations are going to have to be adjusted to match our garage floor elevation or our parking area elevation so that monitoring as necessary can continue.
And what protects after this construction, the neighbors to each side, if some of this contamination due to these dry wells leaks? Are you going to be having monitoring wells on their property as well? It creeps.
So that was never discussed. It's certainly a question that we can pose to the LSRP as to whether or not that would be required. If it's something that's necessary by NJDEP regs, then we will certainly address it. But as of right now, in my conversations with him, he doesn't believe that there's any issues.
But I mean, if I was the property owner next door and we knew this was a gas station and you were doing significant digging here, that potentially would be well worth it to have monitoring well on the opposite side to know if anything penetrated. I know you're going to have one on your property, but as far as your neighbors concerned, because this is a contaminated site, as the, I forget what report I had in front of me, but it says they're not normal levels, acceptable to be monitored and built a residential, but it's not clean. It's not a perfect site.
Yeah, and I when you dig into it,
That's what I mean.
for the dry well, and you've got the overflows for the dry well, you're gonna be washing the contaminants out of the surrounding soil. Even though you've got the stone in there, the water's in there, it's gonna wash the contaminants out.
We will get you an answer, because it might be, the dry wells, I believe, go pretty deep, because they go into groundwater, and I believe that's where you're testing it, so I don't, you know, we might be talking, this is something that's so deep, but I don't, we'll get an answer.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about that one. The next question I've got is related to the sprinkler system. Is it gonna be dry or wet?
We have not designed a sprinkler system yet. That's usually done as part of the construction document phase. I'm not quite sure if our architect has any information on that, but I don't have any info
Okay.
on whether it's,
So you can't answer the second question, which is it gonna be plastic pipe or iron pipe?
correct.
I know that this town typically asks for iron pipe for sprinklers.
Yeah, and the project that just is being built currently, they were made to put iron pipe in, and you could see it in their parking deck. The iron pipe is in there. And I believe that's a dry system, obviously, because you have exposed to the elements.
Yeah.
You might have both. You might have wet in the building and dry, and mini dry for just the parking garage, which is normal.
The other thing was sidewalk access during construction. I know you're gonna have to do curb cuts, you're gonna have to do sidewalk replacement. I also know that that sidewalk is actually heavily used by people walking to and from ShopRite. So something needs to be done for the people that use that sidewalk.
Understood, and we could certainly,
Granted, the only other sidewalk's on the other side of the street, but you gotta do something.
we could certainly coordinate with the borough's engineer regarding what type of access we would have to maintain.
And signage in the street, or whatever, new crosswalks, if we need them. Sidewalk is heavily used.
A lot of traffic.
Anybody else with questions? I know I need to get mine out.
I have a few.
Sure.
And around construction, because that site, as everybody knows, is very tight. And you had testified that all of the construction materials, all of the employees, all of the parking, all of the staging will be on the site. Can you just provide a little more detail on how that will work? Because I can't, in my mind, picture how that's going to work.
Understood. So we've got essentially two parts of the building. There's a basement section, and then we have discrete columns and walls along the sides, both along the east and the westerly side of the building, that'll carry the second floor and the third floor of the building. What we anticipate is coordinating, okay, obviously the basement has to go in first. And then we have to get the foundation in for the columns and supporting walls. That type of work doesn't really require a lot of staging. It requires form work. And once the forms are in place, concrete truck comes to the site, all of the foundation walls are poured, all of the footings are poured. That aspect of the project is done. They leave the property. Once the foundation is in, we now have a somewhat of an open area on the property that we can utilize to build the rest of the structure. Keep in mind that the basement area or that lobby area is relatively limited. I've got 22 feet plus another 18 feet of parking space. So we have about 40 feet beyond that lobby area of the building in the basement area that we can utilize to stage material to build the rest of the structure.
So on a
Where's the,
typical,
excuse me for just interrupting, where's the concrete truck gonna park to deliver the concrete to the building?
No, I'll defer some of the construction aspects of the building to the architect, but in terms of the foundation, the truck can be on site within the property in order to pour the foundation. The truck does not need to be on the highway or on Route 202.
so, and that kind of gets to the gist of it, right? Because there's going to be a lot of activity. And there's not just going to be a concrete pour, but there's going to be mechanical, and there's going to be electrical, and there's going to be,
Trusses.
15 guys and gals that are going to be on site. And so they each have their own vehicle. Like, I'm not getting the picture of how all of that is going to be put on that little tiny property. Yeah. Because the concrete, now, I get it, the concrete truck will be there for a limited period of time, but that's on that site, and then that consumes half of it, more than half of it.
Probably more.
And so then, how is everything else gonna fit in there? And how long is a project of this scope take to build? And so then, how long does Bernardsville and 202 have to accommodate that type of activity on that site? So in my mind, there's massive questions about how all of that activity is going to be contained in that site and not spill over into the sidewalk, onto 202, onto parking areas in town, that, because there's no parking and people have to work there. So to me, there's many, many answers that need to be provided on the process of movement, staging, trucks, cars, everything. And that gentleman right down there knows a heck of a lot more about it than I do, but those are the questions that I have.
No, and and the reason why it's so sensitive to us here in Bernardsville, because we've lived almost 2 years of a property which has a lot more setbacks than yours, and a large passive lane off of 202, almost not a right of way, but a passive, like a shoulder, like an 8 to 10 foot shoulder. You have no shoulder, you are zero lot line, and they have room, they have tons of room hanging over the curb, and they have technically no foot traffic there. You're in the heart of it, on a site that's zero lot line, where so many of these reports from HPAC and fire official and so on and so forth, we didn't get to any of this yet, all saying that this, if the site was, if your project was reduced in scale, it would be manageable, it would be buildable. I'd love to hear you answer Ed's question, because I do this and I'm waiting. So I'd love to hear how you're going to manage that, because we've already managed a site that has opportunity to park and load. You should have seen 120 yards of concrete be poured on that site over there. They have plenty of room over there. I don't know how you're going to pull this off, but you testified to it, so you got to answer Ed.
And I apologize, but could you please repeat the question?
What,
Do you have room?
what I think we're looking for is, the sequence of construction and how you testified that everything's going to be done on the footprint of the property. I can't picture that in my mind. So the sequence of construction, from digging the basement to pouring the foundation to pouring the concrete how is that property going to accommodate all of that activity, all of those vehicles, all of that equipment, all of that staging? Because I don't think you can. I'll just say it.
Just, for example, you're going to excavate for the back wall, and you're going to excavate for the dry well, probably before you pour the foundation, because you got the excavator there. Now that you've dug everything up, where's the concrete truck going to drive? Because there's a big hole in the middle of the site.
And a 40-foot cliff on the other side.
40-foot cliff on the
And
backside.
supposed parking for all of the workers that are doing that work, and the concrete truck and the other, I mean, I don't, yeah.
You would probably have to make.
All in sight, so let's hear the answer.
You're probably gonna have to make private arrangements.
I mean, you're an engineer, you know
Fun
when
with
you
the
pour a podium, what the intensity of the structural support to pour that form on a platform. You're
above it.
Yeah, it would, yeah,
So-
I'm assuming that. It's literal jungle. It's a literal jungle. There's no room. You're not doing a concrete deck on a residential building like that with no life safety concern on a parking underneath?
So I'll defer to code issues to the architect regarding that, but as with a typical light frame wood construction, the foundation is going to be the most critical part to get in, and that's the one that's going to require concrete trucks. Wood frame above and beyond that, typical to any residential construction. In regards to like employees or contractors that come to the site, we can certainly make arrangements that, with the understanding that the property is limited in terms of parking and where workers can park, that I've seen construction site where when it is tight and we are limited on space, that most of the workers, they come in, let's say, for instance, like a shuttle of some sort. It could be a van that brings them to the property because everyone is there for a certain amount of time. When the day is over or the work day is over, they leave to wherever they have parked. So I think we can handle the worker part of it without too many issues. The wood frame construction does minimize some of the complications, and I do agree with you with all of the shoring that would typically be necessary for a structural or a con cement deck to build on top of it, since we're not utilizing that. I really don't see that as an issue.
Yeah, but if, we'll have to go back into the records because I know the town, I know that the project, not similar to yours, but in the same line of this now high-density residential development, they required concrete stairwells and a concrete platform and a 14-foot clearance under the finished tile from slab to here to be able to get those trucks through that you talked about, those box trucks that can maneuver. So I don't know where you're going with a wooden truss with people's lives, and even though it's sprinkled and you have cars underneath, that's gonna need more, that's gonna need her testimony.
Lithium battery cars.
Yeah, yes, EV cars, correct. And that's one of the reasons why there's a slab this thick over there on that project next to the fire department. I mean, we're living it, so unfortunately, you're second. But fortunately, they were first, and it was done right. So you're in a worse situation with 0 lot lines where he conceded to have some space that we could actually function and have more safety and consider, like, reading this thing, consider the fire department and things of that nature. So I guess you still have to answer Ed.
But before, can you just give me the address, that project, maybe I can look, I don't know.
It's right next to the firehouse.
Next to the firehouse.
Turn right when you come out,
Right here?
Yeah.
Right over there.
It's 100 yards down.
Before the
Same
before the
zone,
circle.
or I don't, just.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just look up, you'll see it. Can't miss
next
it.
to the firehouse.
It will be really obvious.
It's really obvious what it is. No, and when you pass it, you'll notice, you'll see the shoulder. And then when you continue home, if you're going that direction, look at your shoulder. Your shoulder's this big. They're about 8 or 9 feet wide. So they have some kind of opportunity to at least be safe. And they used every inch of it almost every day. And now they're way past the need because now they have everything underneath and they could work underneath like you described before. But this last year and 3 quarters have been crazy. And they have a site that have room.
Yeah,
You don't have any room.
They were using concrete trucks and pumps,
Yes.
overhead pumps, to pump the concrete where they needed it to go. Yes. No, they're huge compared to you.
But they have room. They're not working off of 0 lot lines.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that there's probably a half acre there. I don't know.
Yeah, there's room. Plenty of room in the front, plenty of room to park, plenty of room to stack. Yeah, and plenty of room in the back.
Yeah.
Correct.
Back.
Yes, plenty of room in the back. So there's room to function. And they did. They came off of the firehouse. They came off the building next door. You can get around it. They have windows on the side. There's a lot that they were able to do.
They had heavy equipment within the poured foundation.
Correct.
And for months and months and months, that could move around and maneuver and so, like, I know I'm asking a tough question. How are you gonna orchestrate all of this? right? So the testimony was, the question, I'm paraphrasing, can we get everything and keep everything on site so there's no spillover into the New Jersey Transit, the sidewalk, the neighbors? Yes. Well, how?
And we're
Like-
just on,
like
we're just
I-
on the staging question.
If-
We didn't get the
Like,
light
I
safety or
believe
anything
you, I
else.
think, but like, I can't envision it because it's so small. And if the answer is, well, we can't, but we're gonna make arrangements, what are those? Like, how does that work? And
I mean, you've got the excavation that has to happen, there's gonna be an excavator, there's gonna be a dump truck to carry the dirt away. I mean, our town ordinance says, all dirt has to stay on site. Well, with your construction at, zero lot lines all the way around, you can't do that. You're gonna dig a hole for a dry well, the dirt's not gonna stay on site. I don't know where you're gonna put it.
And so when you mentioned positive and negative criteria, part of
Yeah, and
that,
it's contaminated.
And it's contaminated.
so part of that positive and negative criteria is like, how long are we gonna have to live with this?
And where are you gonna put the contaminated soil?
Yeah.
So where are you gonna put the contaminated soil that you're excavating for the dry well? All of these questions need to be answered.
Understood. I mean, and in terms of the contaminated soil, all of that material, once it's removed from the property, it has to be disposed of. DEP has specific regulations regarding how that needs to be treated. And it also has to be manifested as to where it's going, if it's going to a landfill of some sort.
Yeah.
It all.
You've got an excavator that's gonna also have to have a dump truck on site to hold all that stuff. And oh, by the way, you're excavating for the basement in front. So the dump truck isn't gonna be in front, it's not gonna be behind where you're digging the hole. I don't know where you're gonna put the dump truck on the site. I mean, Ed's question is very, very valid. I think you need to answer those questions for us. Can this even be built without a dramatic impact to the town? Because 202 Morristown Road is exceedingly busy every morning and every evening.
Yeah, particularly when there's crashes on 78 and 287.
Yeah.
And then-
Or when school lets out.
And if and when other approved construction projects 500 yards up the road begin construction, now we're compounding. And
At least they have opportunity because they have room. This has no room,
I agree.
as they have drawn it.
I just think it's gonna be tough. And the answers, in my mind, weigh heavily into the positive and negative criteria and site suitability for a project of this type. And so that, for me, needs to be addressed.
We will have a planner testify.
I think the planner can address the construction.
No, positive and negative criteria.
Right.
I mean, the construction phase is generally stipulated with all construction code requirements.
Anyway, you got our feelings. Any other questions
Yeah,
on this?
on the lighting,
Yes.
we've already discussed what will be visible to the rear of the project. Can you just, and you had mentioned that there would be, my words, not yours, but decorative lighting, can you?
Wisconsin.
Yeah, can you just, because David was right, lighting for an ATM was a nightmare. So can you share with us more on what that lighting will look like and where and how high and et cetera? Or is that something that I should save for the architect?
Yeah, I think Arlenis, our architect, has more information on the
Okay.
walls houses.
So
But
he's gonna be able to address the light visibility from the site. I forget what they call those diagrams. But there's an engineering diagram that shows how
It's
much
in-
light is visible from the
It's
site.
there. It's in, it's on page,
it's,
lighting plan, page C11. And they've got like the,
Yeah.
but that's from like light generated from within the project is what this, okay, so like light generated on the outside will also need to be, I think, addressed, and I think I know who that too, so please forgive me.
We actually had a question on that, because based on the fixture depicted on C11, it's different than the fixtures depicted on the architectural rendering. So we had a question as to what type of fixture would be proposed. You know, they should be consistent with whatever is on the rendering on sheet 1 of the architectural plans, as well as a detail. And also we had a question on mounting height as well.
And certainly with the plan revisions, we'll coordinate that, my drawings and Arletta's, to make sure that we have the same fixture schematically shown.
Yeah, but board may have.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly if the board have a preference regarding the design of the sign. To the board has.
During your testimony regarding the timing of the lights, so how are you proposing the timing is going to work? Will you have 24-hour lighting? Like say you come home at 1 o'clock in the morning, daughter drives in here, will it be dark? Will it, like how will you, will this be lit 4 hours a day? Like how will that work?
So what we anticipate regarding the parking area, that they could certainly initially be on a timer, but we could also use motion sensors. So as you're entering into the garage, the sensor sees you, identifies you, the lights turn on.
So
And then
normally it won't be on at 1 in the morning, but if someone drives in, it will go on.
Correct. And similarly, if no,
And my other question is, have you had a chance to talk with New Jersey American Water where your hot box will be located? Because I don't see it on your plan.
no, we have not started that process with the water company.
Because that's pretty significant with that gigantic box with zero lot line. I think we asked you back, I remember I did, back when you first started speaking, to go and see where that box is going to be located. Now we're 2-3 revisions by and we still don't have an answer for that.
It may have been, I don't believe he testified previously.
Okay, but remember.
No, I know, yeah. Just to be fair to.
Yes, that's fine. If they are consistent as they are recently.
Understood.
Questions from the board?
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead, Steve.
The survey depicted an enclosure, which we had noted in our letter, which we thought was part of the environmental monitoring, but there was nothing included in the LSRP report.
So what I can tell you regarding that enclosure, there is a PVC pipe within the enclosure, and I certainly didn't have any access to within that area. I don't know what that pipe is for, if it's just something that was left over, but we can certainly go back and check again with the LSRB to see if there's anything in the work that was done by Shell, or if he has any information regarding what that pipe is for.
I think that would be important just to update the report to include that, whether something to do with remediation or.
All of the monitoring wells be noted on the survey, are they?
Yes,
Are they on the survey?
correct.
E3. That's further. So I see one on the inside of the driveway. Monitor well. All of those need to stay in the new design, correct?
Correct.
So are they marked on this page? So are they marked on C4? Are they carried through to C4? I don't see any of them on C4.
No, they're not carried forward on C4.
Okay, they need to be. Otherwise, you're maybe putting stuff where the well is. Anything else?
So a few more things.
Sure, let's see.
With respect to the stormwater management, it's designed at 4.5 inches of possible design it from 5 inches, I believe, of roof. Also, Mr. Chairman indicated that for all of the impervious on site, not just the roof area. So I think we just need to nail down what exactly the design system. 5.5 inches for all of the impervious on site.
I at least want to cover the entire site. 4.5 seems to me to be a reasonable number. That's a hell of a lot of rain. Granted, that's not a 100-year storm, I get that. And we get those occasionally, and then the center of town gets flooded. So if the center of town is flooded, really can't say, oh, you're not allowed to flood either. No. So, I don't know, 4.5 inches seems like a reasonable number.
4.5, but the whole site.
But the whole site. That's where my head is. Does anybody else feel differently? Steve, do you feel differently?
We recommended 4.5 inches.
Yeah, okay.
So that's the whole site impervious area,
Correct.
which is a little bit less than the lot area.
With a little strip.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
99.1.
Just for that we're on the same page, that it's for the impervious area.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll need to confirm with my office, I believe we have a structural engineering department that review their system. I just want to confirm that it's something beyond my expertise, looking at a structural analysis of the wall being impacted. I would need to confirm that. I'm not looking for a vote tonight, so I will confirm that before the next meeting.
Will you provide a drawing for that so we can at least analyze it? Like, in other words, what's your support behind it, what's the length?
Well, hopefully he's got somebody that can do the finite element analysis and present the whole picture.
Okay.
So that somebody else can review it.
Haven't heard that term in a while.
Some of us are old.
No, but certainly, we could certainly reach out to an engineer. Normally, when I've done the impact analysis on retaining walls, I do it manually, and certainly not with finite element. But if that's a board preference to see how the overall structure as a whole behaves, I mean, we can certainly look into that.
I think we need to do that just because a car can hit that wall so easily. People make mistakes. My mother did. And
She on the track.
let's not go there. And, and there's a 40-foot drop after that. And I would not want to have anything hit a train. That would be bad.
So I made a recommendation that they prepare the environmental conditions report be available for questions. I still think it's a good idea to have them appear in person so that the board can ask their questions. If that's something that the board agrees with.
This is somebody from LSRP?
Yes.
Yeah.
Seems like we had enough questions about it.
Yeah. I agree.
I know we just, this came in last minute, so we wanted it.
I understand. There's just some of the things he wrote there I don't understand.
Then one of the things, the access aisle behind the 90-degree parking spaces, ordinance requires 24 feet, and you do have a narrower width, but I didn't hear any testimony or if you provided a mistake. Vehicles being able to maneuver out of space with the reduced width, as well as if you have, you know, an oversized ramp or something, people moving in or out whether you're in front of testimony with respect to that. The daily operations as well as the classification, things coming in with them and moving stuff around.
So in terms of the moving in and out, I believe what I testified to originally is that within that 22-foot wide aisle is if, let's say, a moving van or a box truck or UPS or FedEx, they can park adjacent to the lobby area, accomplish whatever the loading or unloading they need to do, get that done, and then leave, since we don't have a dedicated loading zone. That still leaves enough of the aisle, anywhere from 12 to 14 feet, depending on how the van parks, that cars can still come into the parking area, drive through and exit. In terms of the 22-foot wide aisle, I did look at it regarding can cars pull into the parking spaces and park? Yes, they can. I can certainly include that as part of the analysis. The turning templates to show the movement into and out of the parking space.
And then I guess if someone is moving in or out, might be a little bit longer than the extra. So there are occasions that you can anticipate vehicles being blocked. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
But based on the size, they wouldn't need a parking space assigned for that unit.
Depending on the truck, but yes, if someone is moving out of parking space number 1, let's say, then that space would potentially be available.
You would still need to coordinate with the other residents and let them know there's going to be a move happening. Yeah, no, I get that, but even still, the likelihood of a box truck getting into a spot like that is low. And so you'd have to coordinate with the other residents and let them know, gee, somebody's moving in, they're gonna have the driveway aisle blocked from this time to that time. If you need your car and you happen to be in one of those spaces, let us know, kind of thing. We've got the coordination with the residents. Do you have anything else, Steve?
And then for the stormwater management system, you will need to prepare an operations and maintenance plan. You know, to monitor development, there is an ordinance requirement for it.
Certainly, we can put that together.
And then I don't have any other questions at this time. It's possible I could have some additional questions as a meeting or the next.
And a question occurred to me. Are you planning on having any facilities for people to wash their cars? Okay.
Wasn't quite sure how to answer it.
Okay. I'd ask. We do a car wash in town, I get that. Any other questions from board or professionals?
I do. I think it's important enough to read, and I'm not sure if our guests have heard this letter from Ryan Bell, fire official. But the first part we'll address with the architect, but the second part we should address with the engineering portion of this testimony. It says the current design and layout of the property provides no fire lane access for emergency vehicles during an emergency. While the proposed property lines in close proximity to the Morristown Road Route 202, there is little space for providing emergency vehicles to stage, park, to operate without causing major traffic issues on a main thoroughfare in the municipality. With even a minor event, such as a medical emergency, smoke alarm evacuation from a culinary mishap, An apparatus, parking, and subsequent traffic buildup would cause additional traffic hazards and secondary incidences around the area. The number of additional resources required, it's an important one, the number of an additional resources required to manage traffic hazard, even in a small incident, would be taxing on the municipality, limited first responders resources. We're a volunteer system here. So just a simple, what he's explaining here is a simple toast burn or alarm beeper went off by mistake, you open the door and it went off. That there's no place for anybody to queue up. I mean, I have thoughts on that and I have potential things, but I wanted you to hear that clearly because this affects the safety of the people that are going to inhabit this building. And our fire official clearly stated, there's again, like we talked about with Ed, where do you stage a concrete truck? Where do you put anything? And that's the reason you don't, he's wants you to have some sort of fire access lane, and not just to pull the ambulance underneath, but when all of the people when that one buzzer goes off, I'm not a volunteer fire department man, but I do know what comes to a building because I had enough of them, that what shows up when one alarm goes off, multiple vehicles, and especially if you're volunteering, you're coming from different parts of this town, getting there as fast as you can. So my point is, even on the slightest mishap, as he called it, an apparatus of something that would go off inadvertently would cause some sort of emergency access in the front of this building so they can get in and stage in the front of here. So that's what if you could think about something like that. You don't have to answer it now, but I wanted that on the record because I think it's very important that fire lane access, especially when we have no shoulder and you're at zero front line setback. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board or professionals? And I agree. I read that report too. For the engineer. Come on down, name and address, and then ask your question. Hang on, say it for the mic, please.
Sir, these are questions, correct?
Sorry?
Of the witness.
These are questions of the
Very
witness.
good.
Yes, so there's been a lot of discussion about the stormwater. I didn't hear anything about snow removal and for the open area of the parking. Where's all the snow going to be put?
So we do have, most of the parking area is going to be covered.
I got
so-
that part, but the area's not going to be covered. And we do have heavy snow up here. Where's that snow going to go?
We'll have to coordinate that with the manager of the building.
Well, we've heard that.
Find out, can we
I think you
remove
guys
it,
got the
or
message.
it is, I've seen where you could also use melters, depending on the volume of snow that you have. And essentially just have the snow go back into the ground through the drywall system. There's a couple of different ways we can handle it, but we can sort of provide additional information to the board in the future.
Yeah, because what's a really good question is, who's going to clear the snow? Is it going to be the person that's moving their car?
They're gonna take the snow off the car and push it to the side and then go to work.
Yeah, so it's either going to be left in the parking area, or it's going to go over the edge.
It's not a question, but can I make a comment about the stormwater? The rainfall there? Because there was a rather dismissive point here that you didn't get much rain in Philadelphia. In 2021, when we had the remnants of Hurricane Ida, there were small white caps going down 202. And even to right now,
Yes.
So I think you're being pretty dismissive about stormwater. Thank you.
Hi, Aaron Duff, 51 Crestview Drive. I just had a question, and we keep hearing about zero setback, zero lot line. How wide is the sidewalk? Proposal? 8 feet. Is that, so it's 8 feet from where the building begins to the curb of 202, is that accurate? Or is there something else? Because
No, so
I'll let you finish.
from the curb line towards the building,
Yeah.
it's 8 feet wide.
Okay, and is that zoning conforming in the downtown core?
Yes, I believe 8 foot was actually a recommendation by the board's engineer.
Thank you.
Please, name and address.
Catherine Paragano, 40 Flintlock Court, Bernardsville. I believe this is
Spell your
for
last name, please?
P as in Princess, Aragano.
You?
I believe this is for you, and I'm not 100% that my information is accurate, but I have been told by vets working in the animal hospital, there are tunnels going under parts of 202. So the animal hospital is adjacent to this property, and you're excavating. Those tunnels are being held up by wooden structures.
knows about those
Are you
tunnels.
familiar with this at all?
I am not.
Okay, so I have this concern about whether that is in fact true. And I was looking at the town engineer because maybe he knows. Because if you're excavating there, I think you're potentially causing some issues on the road itself and potentially the other building. So that was my comment.
For the record, I am not aware of any tunnels, but that doesn't mean they don't exist.
Yeah, we know about that up on Route 80.
Well, if anybody knows anything about tunnels that were built years and years and years ago, he's sitting right there. And Chicky helped build it, so.
I know a guy.
The speed limit, in Marchtown, and they came out there and found all these tunnels, they thought these tunnels that went, and the speed limit allowed, actually, it ended up, his father was a bootlegger. You constantly get to the other end.
The old library used to be a tavern. Anyway, let's get back to questions. Thank you.
Hi, Carrie Hazelton, 397 Linebrook Road. I heard you mention this a couple of times, so I may be just off base, but since we've gone through this with a recent application, you said twice that cars would enter the entrance turning right. And then you said they would come out the back, that when they come out the exit, they would go right or left. Is there a no left turn into the parking area that's proposed? Or were you just saying, oh, they'll just go right into the parking, it'll be no problem? But you said it twice.
So I apologize, but there's
Yeah.
no turning restriction. So
Okay.
you could make a left or a right into the parking area.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
What I will ask, follow up with that though, is are the entrance and exit going to be marked as such so that you don't get people going the wrong direction?
Yes.
And you won't get people. I'm sure you
Get them anyway, I know.
There's no turning.
And also consideration that the application that is only a few doors down from you, that it's under review, much about the same size lot, I think there's just a little bigger, but they just got a DOT review, and coming out of their property, they are restricting the left-hand turn. So for you to consider
Understood.
that option as well, because of the intensity that will approach as you went west.
Certainly.
and see what they come back with. Just tell them 2 doors up, just gotta, don't make a left.
Yeah, because I can envision that restriction is very reasonable.
That's a reason he did left in order.
Because you get clipped from all the people coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Okay. Back to you.
Yes, we're gonna call our traffic engineer.
People want a break? Okay. All right, let's take a break for 5 minutes. Resume at 10:10. Hard at 10. Okay. Yeah, you think that. There will be questions.